Clemson at Texas. Clemson going down to Austin. This is the first time I think Clemson and Texas have ever played each other. So that's exciting. I want to say I haven't looked it up recently, but the last time I looked, the line was about 11.5, 12 Texas favored.
11.5 Texas is where it's
11 and
currently
a half.
sitting.
So, got the ACC versus the SEC. Clemson is the team that nobody wanted to be in this thing. I mean, we put out a video that we didn't think they should be in a large status, a large playoff team, which they were not. They got in by beating SMU. So good on them. Good on Dabo for winning the ACC. Texas took care of business against everybody they played, with the exception of Georgia twice this year. I just couldn't get over that Georgia hump. Correct me if I'm wrong. Looking at this game and looking at these matchups, this Clemson offense is easily the second best offense Texas is going to face all year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up there numbers-wise, opponent adjusted and everything with that Georgia offense.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, we talked about it. We put out a video, a reel, and TikTok that got a ton of action on TikTok and reels going into that SEC championship game, talking about how we're going to find out in that Georgia game, the SEC championship game, was Texas's defense really as legit as the numbers said they were, number 2 overall defense in the country going into that game, or was it because they were being propped up by playing against bad offenses because they didn't face but one offense ranked in like the top 50 in offense, which was Georgia, which they lost to earlier in the year. Well, what we found out is both were true. They haven't faced many good offenses, and their defense is legit. Their defense was not the reason they lost that game to Georgia in the SEC championship game. Them not able to finish drives in the red zone, which we're going to talk about that more here in a minute, and them missing field goals and stuff is the reason why they lost that game in the SEC championship game. But you're right, man. The Clemson offense and Cade Klubnik and the overall offense in general that Texas has faced, this will be one of the better offenses they faced. And how about the matchup too, man? Old Cade Klubnik going to Austin. He played at Westlake High School in Austin. Him and old Quinn Ewers have actually already squared off in a big game. So, hey, some people in Texas might tell you they've already squared off in a bigger game than this one in the Texas High School State Championship game where the South Lake Dragons and Westlake Austin squared off, and Klubnik and Westlake got the best of them in that matchup. So this is round 2 between Ewers and Klubnik. But, yeah, man, I mean, on the flip side of it.
Klubnik's had like a very – it's probably because he's in the ACC, but he's had a very – solid year, 33 touchdowns, only 5 picks.
Mm-hmm.
He's really taken care of the ball a lot better than he did in the past couple of years. He's completing 64% of his passes, over 3,300 yards. I mean, he's got some weapons to throw to too. So I mean, I really think that I trust Dabo. I mean, Clemson still got the athletes, right? They still get a lot of really, really good recruits. They may not go into the portal, although we talked about it earlier. He finally did, but they haven't gone in the portal. They've stuck with high school recruiting. They still get 4s and 5 stars. So, I mean, they've still got the athletes to compete with Texas.
Yeah, they do. But, man, I'm wondering, okay, let's the flip side of it, talking about numbers, are they propped up or not? So, Clemson, hang on, for case we get a reel out of this. Clemson, I got, I'm just going to say it. We're live in our pod. Doesn't matter. It's a podcast. I got drilled by Clemson fans on social media for saying Clemson. They're like, there's no Z in Clemson. I'm sorry. I'm from the deep South. My accent's thick. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but I'm just going to start now calling it like Dabo says it, little old Clemson. So Clemson, when they've played the top competition this year, that offense has not looked anything like it did against, the Virginias and the Wakes and those type of teams. When they faced Georgia, first game of the year, 3 points. That's what they scored. When they faced South Carolina, they scored 14 points against South Carolina. That's the 2 best defenses they faced all year. When they faced Pitt, that's one of the better defenses they faced. They didn't score much against Pitt either. And against SMU, I mean, the offense looked good against SMU, but a lot of that got propped up point-wise because of the early turnovers by SMU. So is it that Clemson's offense and Cade Klubnik, is he legit, elite, or is it more that they were just when they face teams that are inferior, like talent-wise, are they just so much better in those games when they actually do stand in the ring toe-to-toe in their own weight class that they get beat up on. So I don't know which one's more true. Again, we're going to find out in this one because this Texas defense, I'm ready to say it. They're the best defense in college football. I think they are the best defense in college football. I would take them or Georgia and probably Ohio State, those three, as the three best defenses in college football. So, I mean, we're going to find out if Clemson and Cade Klubnik, how they're going to handle. I'm interested to see what they're going to do. I don't think that we're big respecters of Phil Maffa, but dude, do you think they're going to be able to line up? Like, they couldn't run on SMU. And that's no slight. This is no slight to SMU, but like Texas's defense is better than SMU's. And teams don't run the football on Texas either. I just don't see how in the traditional run game with from the tailback position, how Maffa's going to be able to have success running the football against this Texas defense. Do you?
No, I'm with you, man. I think we saw what Texas did against A&M in the finale. We saw what they did in the first half against Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a tough one for Clemson, man. It's
a tough matchup.
It's a step up in class for them, which is crazy to say about Clemson when you think about where they were 5 and 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a step up in class. Texas has been preparing for this for a couple of years before getting in the SEC. They've been recruiting for this. They went to the portal for this. It's going to be a tough one for Clemson. I mean, yeah, Texas's defense is legit. They basically shut out that A&M offense. That only score was that pick six. The only reason I think people have it in their minds as like maybe Clemson can keep it within this 11.5, 12 number is because what we always say about that Texas offense is they always leave a lot to be desired, and they always leave you wanting more. And I know they're playing at home. They're going to have the home crowd, and I know Clemson's defense is pretty solid, but can Ewers the question is not, can he do enough? Yes, he can do enough to win the game. Can he do enough to like make us say, dude, they look really good. If they're going to play like that for the next 3 games after this, like they might win the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the Texas offense, like you hit the nail on the head there, dude. Like there's something going on there. I mean, with the players that they've got and with Sark calling plays, there's no reason for them to score the last 4 ball games. They scored 20 points against Arkansas. They scored 17 against Texas A&M, and they scored 19, including overtime, against Georgia. That's just not going to get it done. That just shows you again how good their defense has been because they won 2 of 3. They won 2 of 3 of those games. So, I mean, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but you got to imagine we're going to see Arch Manning some. And
we thought we'd see him more in the SEC championship game.
I thought so too, but now that they're in the playoff and they're competing for a national championship, I just don't think Sark at this point has to be sitting around. If there was ever any, worry about like losing a locker room or losing like, making Ewers mad or just some external stuff that's going on, if you believe any of it's true or not. Now that they're in the playoff, like you got to play the best player, man, the guy that's going to give you the best chance to win. And I mean, who am I to say that Arch Manning is the one that does that? Because I have no idea if he is or not. But if they're playing in this Clemson game and Ewers is struggling and that Clemson defensive line is teeing off on him and getting to him, you got to imagine that they're going to have a quicker trigger to give at least Arch a chance to be able to go possibly make some plays from the quarterback position. Like I think that at some point in this playoff, there's a chance that we may see him. So, and in regards to that, and when you normally think of Clemson, like their defense has been really good for years, dating back to the Brent Venables days. And even since him, when Wes Goodwin took over as defensive coordinator, the defense has been excellent. This year, the defense has taken a little bit of a step back. Like the numbers will tell you that they're not the same defense that Clemson has been in the past. Like total defense-wise and scoring defense and a lot of the efficiency numbers, like they're not up to par what they've been in the past. So that is another reason. Like normally I would say because of the most Clemson teams that we know of would match up well against this Texas team.
Yeah.
But dude, I don't know. Like I'm trying to find anything here that favors Clemson at all in this matchup. And the only thing I can come up with is this. Cade Klubnik, his legs could, and will have to.
Yeah.
They'll have to be a big part in this game. But like Texas, this defense for Texas is more built. They're a lot faster than last year's Texas defense. Like the linebacker position and the edge rusher position for Texas this year is insane. Arguably the best in the country. So I just think that position group is going to be able to match up fine. If Klubnik starts running, I think they can adjust to that pretty quickly and, have someone like Isaiah Simmons or Anthony Hill Jr. or whoever be able to actually chase down Klubnik.
Yeah, you can tell. I think you can tell which way we're leaning in this game. But I will say, we're trying to find anything for Clemson here. Turnovers and penalties are in Clemson's favor. We saw in the ACC championship game, they didn't commit a single penalty. They didn't have a single turnover. Yes, they still only won that game on a last-second field goal, so that's a little concerning.
Yeah.
But they're number 11 in the country in takeaways per game. Again, we said Klubnik's only thrown 5 picks. Ewers has 9 on the year. Ewers, obviously, in that A&M game, threw a couple picks. Georgia threw a couple picks. If Clemson's defense can make a couple plays on defense, I mean, yeah, they are going. They need to quiet that crowd very, very quickly. Penalties wise, Clemson is top 25 in the country in penalties per game. They only average less than 5 a game. Texas number 94. So if you're looking for any edge you can find here for Clemson, turnovers and penalties are probably it.
Yeah, and to your point, by the way, I called Simmons a minute ago, Isaiah Simmons. It's Colin Simmons, sorry. But to your point on like the Texas offense and Clemson's defense and where Clemson might be able to find some advantages here, another one is, we talked about this in the preseason, that last year Texas was not good in red zone offense at all. Last 2 games, by the way, they're not good this year either. They haven't been that good this year. And a lot of that has to do with the injury at the running back position. They don't run the ball overly as well as they did, obviously, when they had Bijan Robinson and that crew. But Texas against Georgia was moving the ball up and down the field, bogged down in the red zone, kicked field goals, and they missed the field goals. Against Texas A&M, those 2 turnovers that we're talking about there in the second half, both were in the red zone. So if Clemson can bend but don't break, make Texas kick field goals, they can stay in this game. Possibly. That is the number one thing. If Texas is going to win a national championship, they've got to get better in red zone offense. They can't continue to get in the red zone, move up and down the field, and kick field goals, because in these games, in these bigger games, that is a win for some of these defenses to be able to hold you to 3 points. And especially when your kicker, like Bert Auburn, was missing field goals against Georgia. Obviously, if you move up and down the field and miss field goals, that's going to cause that again as well. Texas has to be able to get better in red zone offense.
Yep. All right. Game picks. I hate betting totals, but one place I would look would probably be the under 52.
Yep.
Just kind of everything we've outlined. I'm not going to bet it, but that's one place I would look. But this is another house money game for Clemson in my mind. But it's not going to be enough. I'm going to take Texas to win. I'm going to take Texas to cover. I see, a 34-10 type of game, maybe 27-10, something like that, where they don't have much issue with Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going to take Texas as well, minus 11.5 in this game. I'm making it a best bet as well. I'm going to give a best bet out on all 4 of these games. They're this weekend. So, yeah, Texas minus 11.5 is a best bet. I think Texas's defense is going to be just too much for this Clemson offense. I think they're going to be able to slow down the run game with Phil Maffa and Clemson. I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of success in the run game. I think that Clemson, to be able to generate some offense in the run game, it's going to have to be with Cade Klubnik's legs. And again, I think that Texas, with the speed of their linebackers and edge rushers, that they're going to be able to adjust to that and be able to match up totally fine. And I just think the body blows of Texas being on offense more than likely a lot of the game, kind of like the Georgia-Clemson game was earlier this year, that Clemson defense was playing lights out early in that game, but they were on the field the whole game, and they just kind of gave out in the second half. I think that's what you're going to see a lot in this game as well. I think that the body blows from Texas will make it to where Clemson's defense is on the field a lot, and in the second half, they impose their will and take over. I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I'm kind of thinking 27-13, 27-10, 31-13, 31-10 type of game here.